Hey, what's up, everybody? Got another episode of From the Farm, and if you were on last night, you're probably surprised because we never do them back to back. But like I said last night, we're the most inconsistent podcast, just getting it in where we can fit it in. But we've got so many amazing people that we've been able to connect with over the last few years of doing things. Lots of collaborations happening behind the scenes. So rather than just not do it because I can't be consistent, you're going to get it when I can get it in, and you're going to meet some incredible people. You notice today our intro video didn't come in because I'm going to share a different video with you guys because I think it's important. I'd like for you guys to help if you can.
I am a part of the Maha Coalition. My Idlewild 3D is my Instagram. And I wrote a farm plan to create 1 million new 40-acre farms because America is in real trouble. And I want to tell you, I was made aware of this. Brian Massard, he's on Maha Coalition. We met in DC. We've become friends. And he just told me the other day that his bank is not going to refinance him. So I want you to help me save this ranch. So what we've done is we've set up fromthefarm.org/Rim Angus Ranch. We have a package here. It's going to have beef sticks, summer sausage, be 6 packages in there. It's going to be $100. I need 25,000 people to buy this package in order to save this ranch. Brian, here's what's really crazy about this whole thing. Tell me what you do.
So I've been Secretary Kennedy's ranch advisor for over a year now. And I shared with him how important saturated fat is. And that's the first domino that's got to go. It has been lied about for 50 years. It's what's destroyed small farms and ranches. It's what's destroyed small communities, rural America, all across the country, and contributed more than anything else to chronic illness in America.
Now, here's what you got to realize, folks. Brian Massard is the guy that helped the dietary guidelines to get fat back in the foods. Everybody knows fat's good now, tallow's good, all that. Brian is the total reason this has changed in America. And let me just tell you this. I hate to say this, but the government is not going to help him. They're not doing this, and these banks are not going to finance him, and we're going to lose this ranch. So I've stepped aside from the small farm to the little bit larger agriculture into the beef world to help save this ranch, and I need you to help me save it too. The link will be below.
Thank you.
All right, so let me get that stopped there. A couple of interesting points there, I guess. Obviously, you heard the message there. Would love for you to go to, if you go to fromthefarm.org and type in the search bar Rem Angus, there you'll find them that way. Be super easy to find them that way. So, Steve Jarvis, if you guys have been following me for a while, Steve and I have been back to DC a couple of times. We're doing some work trying to help policy, help kind of tie things in and really help our small family farms and ranches. And I'm actually headed back to Washington, D.C. on September 2nd. We have a meeting with Secretary Rollins. Brian Massard, who you saw in that video, is actually going to be in that meeting with me with Secretary Rollins. So both of those men are incredible people. I look up to them. I learn a lot from them. They help me understand farming from different aspects. And I just really admire those guys. So if you can help them out, go to fromthefarm.org, type in the search bar Rem Angus, and order one of those boxes of jerky and summer sausages. So, all right, with that, let's get into our podcast today. I actually have a special guest today. He's a good friend. It's another ally, another collaborator, somebody we are really excited to work with. We've talked about them before. I think we've done some posts to kind of introduce you guys to who they are before, but it's going to be Mr. Juan Whiting. He's with the Hinterland Institute. It's a nonprofit that trains transitioning veterans to lead in regenerative agriculture and land management. We focus on restoring working lands, including Department of Defense spaces, through adaptive grazing, soil health, and conservation practices. Our mission is twofold: to give veterans a new mission and career path after service, and to regenerate the landscape that sustains both military readiness and rural communities. Right now, we're already training veterans on military installations, and building partnerships with universities, conservation groups, and DoD programs like Argyle and Naval Postgraduate School. At its core, Hinterlands is about turning veterans into land stewards, strengthening our food system, and making America's landscapes and communities more resilient. So with that, I'm going to bring on Juan Whiting. Juan.
Hey, AJ.
What's up, brother? Yeah, you too, man. We're on the phone all the time, so I'm looking forward to this this podcast and this chat. So
same. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so I just read a little bit about what Hinterlands is, but I would like for you, if you don't mind, to share more about your background and how you got into this and your role in the military, whatever you can do there.
Yeah. So, I mean, my background kind of goes back to, I grew up farming, fourth generation farmer and rancher, and ended up in Africa for about 6 years. So just came back about 3 years ago. I was working with the Howard Buffett Foundation out there and driving the Brown Revolution. We're focused on regenerative practices and did that for about 3 years, and then moved into farm management myself. And I became very passionate about all the land that was wasted in where I was at, and saw opportunities to manage it. And I think my whole focus has been on management of land to minimize conflict. And you and I have had tons of conversations about how we're looking at conflict, and how food security drives conflict, and how oftentimes the lack of preparation is what leads to that conflict. I saw this firsthand I served a 2-year mission in Kenya. I was there during a civil war. It was an election. It was election violence, but turned into a lot of tribalism and violence. And everything that I have been passionate about has kind of stemmed from that. I wanted to see how food tied into everything, because when I was in the very rural areas, there was no conflict. These people had food, and they had that rural tie. And when I came back home, I thought, I'll just go back and keep working in this area, because I feel like this is something I can make a difference on. And, Howard Buffett was looking for someone that spoke Swahili and French and knew how to work with pivot irrigation and in agriculture. And I just was probably the only one. So
you speak Swahili and French?
I do. Yeah. So that it just worked out. I was working in some of the conflict regions. You've probably heard about, what's been going on between Rwanda and Congo. I was on the border there, doing a lot of work, and I was working mostly with seed systems, and just fell in love with it. I mean, my family, we loved being out there, and I really, after about 3 years, some of the programs kind of pushed. They moved on, and we decided, we had a few foster girls that were living with us and families that we were taking care of, and we decided, well, let's stay here and start a farm management company. And I mean, we're all talking about Africa here, but this all ties into, as we were doing the farm management company, I saw just landowners that had tons of land that didn't know what to do with it. And I just wanted to bring my knowledge to bear. I didn't own anything. A lot of the land that I grew up with got sold. A lot of Californians moving into Utah. So, for better or for worse, it's
land gets broken up and turned into homes instead of farms. I mean, we're seeing it nationwide, but certainly in Utah where the farms were.
Right, exactly. And you're seeing a lot of, a lot of people that have been cash poor and now are like, hey, I can cash in and take care of my family.
Yeah.
But there's not much legacy that's left over. And that's where I started to kind of shift my view on how agriculture should be. We were bringing in a lot of young people, training them. And I've always been passionate about that. But my real passion comes, it's surrounding conflict and how food security is critical for us to manage any kind of conflict. And I mean, you and I have talked about it, like I said, over and over again, but when I was out there, I mean, I just got an impression that I was going to go back to the US and that I needed to go back to the military. And so, and that there would be a place for me to be, supporting as an agricultural specialist. And
Mhm.
it was funny because I told my wife that, and a month later we got a call
Really?
from a major, and he said, "Hey, we have this new program with civil affairs. We're looking for an agricultural specialist, and you'll be doing work in some of these conflict areas or with our allies to build up their systems and help them, feed themselves and promote peace and diplomacy." And I was like, "Count me in. Let's do it." So
So
yeah.
let's make sure that anybody listening understands what you're saying.
hmm
You got brought in the military to farm
well, I shouldn't say
or
to
to help
farm.
or to teach people to farm, help people learn how to farm.
Exactly. Yeah. So I got brought into the military to help as a specialist in agriculture. So sometimes that's on the policy level. I was just in the Philippines, been there a couple times now, and the focus was really on how do we improve pasture management,
Mhm.
especially when there's disasters like typhoons, like how do we bounce back and how do we deal with outbreaks of diseases. And so that's what I was doing. I was out there with a bunch of veterinarians. So we do kind of these exchanges and try and help our partners, our nations, our allies in building up that capacity.
Okay, man, that's cool. Okay, so I can see your character arc, right? You're doing
Yeah.
what you're doing in Africa. You can see this ground and the stuff that's not used. You've got the background on your farm at home, and now you come back to the U.S. And so now coming from Africa to here and getting involved in the military, and then getting Hinterlands going, we'll be able to see how you connect the dots. So now you are doing this with Army. How did Hinterlands come about and get started?
Well, Hinterland really came about like I do on the side. I was doing agricultural projects and helping get them funded. I was supporting with grant writing. I do that with a lot of federal grants and private funding. And there
Which
was
From the Farm is a client of yours, so yeah.
yeah. So we've helped
Yeah.
before, but with when Eric Chaya reached out, and he's a major in the Army, Green Beret, and he's working with the Naval Postgraduate School, and I think you've got a picture of him up on the
Oh, yeah.
His family, they're all out there. So this is Eric, and when we got together, he was saying, "Look, this is our goal," and the program was set up to basically demonstrate how regenerative grazing can lead to a more resilient base, and how this can integrate with the mission of the base commander.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of skepticism. He ended up writing his thesis on this, but the program was extremely successful, right? And when we talked about it, he said, "Well, how can we replicate this?" And I said, the best place for us to do this is through a nonprofit. And we set up Hinterland Institute. We'd set it up actually several months before, because we were very focused on the international side of things and training some of our partners that were going downrange to understand agriculture. There was a program called ADAPT, which was agricultural development pre-deployment training, and that had been going on with Fresno State for way back with the war in Afghanistan, Iraq, and the training was basically helping these guys understand how do we win hearts and minds by supporting them in their livelihoods, which 80 to 90% of them were working in agriculture. So anyway, that's why we had originally set up Hinterland. It was very much a global focus of training. But then when these guys came in, we just said, this is going to knock everyone's socks off, because now what we're talking about is bringing veterans in, replicating this model where, forget what Doge has done as far as like cutting like waste with the government. The biggest waste that we don't talk about is the 26 million acres And that's just 26 million acres of DOD land. If we add in DOI land and all the other land that has just been BLM land, a lot of this land that is not being managed by people who are willing to manage it.
Or restrictions through policy are not allowing those that would like to manage it appropriately.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really what we came in and we said, let's fix this. Not with the idea of let's kick producers off that land and take over. We're not competing with them, but the idea would be let's create a bridge. So, because a lot of the times, like, producers can get all mad and, you know, hot and heavy about things, but the truth is that there's been producers that have done it the wrong way, and that have caused all sorts of problems on bases or around bases or even on BLM lands, and they give everyone else a bad name. And so what we're trying to do is
or they tell another producer it doesn't work. And that's even worse, because now that producer may not even be willing to try because somebody said, I tried, it didn't work. And we don't know if they actually implemented all of the practices, you know, why it didn't work. Because, I mean, Will Harris has been doing this for 20 years. And I'll bet you even today he's saying it's not working.
Yeah. Well, and
it's working, but there's certain things he's going to look at and be like, man, it's practice. It's working with nature. But anyway, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It is. And Will Harris will be the first to state that he's like, I will not touch anything outside of Georgia. Like, this is like where we want to focus. And we're kind of experts in this area, but it's been, you know, through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah. Alejandro would have better comparison, but even Alejandro knows.
Yeah. I mean, even Alejandro who's going out, he knows that he can only do so much with the given environment. But when we're talking about the ecosystems, that's one thing. Now let's talk about the military ecosystems that you and I are in or have been in, right? You were there too. We have to understand, how do we fit within that mission readiness and combat efficiency kind of mindset? And it's an entire ecosystem as well. And you know, we can be all angry about the bureaucracy that's there, but there's a reason for it. And we have to be able to work with that machine. We have to be able to move cows when a tank's coming through. We have to be able to provide, you know, all these protocols and this, you know, 3 or 4 levels of security to ensure that our livestock aren't going rogue. So that's a big part of what we're doing with Hinterland that we're not talking about that much, but it's a critical piece. And how we contract with every base, it's so funny how it's, like you said, it's similar to all these ecosystems that we work in. Utah has been just completely open and easy to work with. California, whole nother story, right? Like, there's just one base just next door from a base that's really successful. They're not talking to each other, and there's all sorts of, you know, there can be all sorts of challenges with that communication, and you really have to prove it. But what we're hoping is that because we're one organization, we can speak for the producers, we can speak for the veterans, and create something that you know, that resonates and build a reputation that precedes itself. And that opens up that 26 million acres, which at the end of the day, will change the weather in the United States if we do it right.
Yeah. So you're currently operating on 2 locations. Is that accurate?
Well, we have several locations right now that we're working. We're subcontracted and working alongside of Cobush out in Miramar, and then we are collaborating with Alejandro out in Yuma. So he's been working out there, Yuma Marine Corps base, and then we are the big one, the pilot that really got this whole thing kick-started is the one with Naval Postgraduate School, which is at Camp San Luis Obispo. We are in discussions right now to start doing that over at Camp Roberts as well. The goal in California is about 1.3 million acres in the next few years. And then in Utah, like I said, the 2.4 million acres is something that we're aiming for. And that it's something that they've been very open and saying, how can you help producers out here? And the biggest challenge with a lot of these producers is they don't have support. A lot of their kids aren't coming back. I know that like I was told, go get an education and go into something else. Like there was a concerted effort. Like, I mean, I enjoyed burning ditch. I enjoyed like
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff on with agriculture, but I don't think that, you know, people were super excited about me going and farming out in Africa, you know, like that was only like the only thing worse than doing it out here was like going out to East Africa and doing it.
That's
So,
funny.
yeah.
Well, you got them like way spooked, and then you pulled back. So they're like, oh well, at least it's not Africa.
Right. Right. But hey, who knows? We might be going back out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Surprise, surprise. We can do this everywhere.
We can.
So what are some of the benefit? Like what are some of that, like the direct outcomes that you're trying to achieve, like fire mitigation and food into the food supply? Like what's that scope look like for your tasks and goals at Hinterlands?
Yeah. So, I mean, the major outcomes, obviously, veterans are a key part of this. And this isn't like, hey, we want to give a handout and like really help a bunch of veterans that can't help themselves. That we are needing veterans that could manage hundreds of thousands of acres. And we're needing veterans that can be trained. I'll be honest with myself, having grown up in conventional agriculture, I have had to retrain myself. Yeah. And to look at cattle in a different way, look at livestock in a different way, and how we treat the soil in a completely different way. And it's going to be helpful to have people that are very open. And I feel like veterans, every time you go into a new training environment, you're completely open. You have to be that way. The second that you're not, you're humbled quickly. That's it's just the way it is. Every time I go into a training environment, doesn't matter how much education I've had or how much experience, it means zero. And I feel like that's actually it's been a really helpful thing for me just as an individual. That's probably the best part of the Army, is that I get to start from zero with a bunch of people, have some special trauma bonding experiences. And then, you know, at the end of it, we're like, hey, we learned something. Very hands-on learning. And we're wanting to replicate that in our training, but also connect them to the producers. So the real outcomes are this, right? Like we want to get veterans out there and get them jobs. We're talking about thousands of veteran opportunities to graze and you know, be part of this movement. We also want to connect them to producers and lift some of these producers. The producers that you're like the very beginning of this podcast that you're raising awareness on. We want to cut costs for them. We're seeing an insane amount of costs being cut, including like the amount of ivermectin being used because we're moving the cattle so regularly, the amount of antibiotics being used because the pasture's been improved substantially. But it's not fair to tell people to go transition to regenerative. You and I have talked about this as well. Like, it's not fair for me to go tell my uncle to go and do this when he's old and he's tired and he's like, this is the way I've always done it. Like, the amount of energy and just changing everything is overwhelming. But if you brought a bunch of veterans out there and said, hey, we're ready to get to work, then we can prove it. And then we can talk about, hey, this is what we're doing. And this is where it becomes really exciting, because then we're working, hey, from the farm, like, how do we get this to the market? Or in our case, like, how do we lift an entire community? This is another outcome that I see being really exciting. You saw the picture of the family there. Like, we're bringing families back to rural communities. Yep. But it has to make sense, right? This whole thing has to make sense. I want to see veterans with their entire family. That makes sense to me. Them being engaged in the community, being part of like city council or whatever, being part of the fire department on the side. Like, there's just so much that is missing from these rural communities. But the biggest thing, I noticed it when I went to Will Harris's place. Like, there was just kids everywhere. Yeah, that is true. We were there. There were 30 kids just out there playing around outside the cafe. And I just, like, it almost brought a tear to my eye, because I thought, you know what? This is what I'm fighting for. Yep. These kids are growing up in a stable, safe, food secure environment. And the coolest thing is that it's not like your run of the mill rural community out in Utah, right? This is a rural community that has a lot of diversity, which I was really, that's the thing that oftentimes, keeps people from going there. They had people from New York, they had people from Germany, France. There was a lady from the UK, and they were all just like, look, we loved it. And so they're all very intentional. And this is one thing that I saw when I was in Africa, is that the best part of being there was being surrounded by expats that all came and were extremely intentional with their faith, or even if they were faithless, like if they didn't believe in any kind of religion, they were just like, we're here to make a difference, and we know that people need us, and we're ready to put our, shoulder to the wheel and get some things done. Those kind of people are not your everyday run-of-the-mill kind of people.
Right.
Yeah. So that's an outcome that I specifically am really excited about, because that's where resilience lies. And when conflict hits, these are the communities that are insulated, not because they're just out in the middle of nowhere, but because they have people that
they rely on each other.
They're intentional. Intentionally building community. Like, I mean, I'm in Salt Lake right now, and it's not.
There's no community. Yeah. The smaller you get, the more community you find, really. But
you don't have much choice.
There's a book, I've shared this with you before, but there's a book called The 3-Day Effect. And what they did was they measured the brains of people with severe trauma. They actually had two groups. One group was combat veterans, and the other group was former sex workers. And so they mapped their brains, and they were like looking to see what areas of their brains were like shut off that might be causing, the post-traumatic stress symptoms, right? Anxiety, depression, all the things. And so they put this on and mapped them. And then they took them on a 3-day whitewater rafting trip. And while they were on the rafting trip, they took the equipment to measure the brain activity throughout the whitewater trip. And at 3 days, and the book, if you listen to the book on audio, you're essentially listening to, it's like a podcast almost. It's like they took the transcript of the audio and made the book. So when you listen to the book on audio, it's great. You actually hear the background noises when they're, when she's talking, on this trail. But at 3 days, they found that the area of the brain responsible for a lot of that balance, a lot of that hormonal balance through, oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, all the things, was re-engaged in 3 days. And so the book's called 3-Day Effect, and it's about 3 days in nature. So talking about your mission, getting veterans with their families on land, doing agriculture work out in nature, is very healing, and it's been proven. The reason the suicide rate in farming is so high is when they lose that. Like, you've taken somebody that has experienced what nature has, and they've become adapted to that environment full time. And then you're going to put them in a box. And so the suicide rates amongst agriculture come from the fear of, that's what my life is going to be when I lose this, all
the fear of losing everything.
Yeah. Where do we go? I'm losing it all. I'm losing my family's heritage. I'm losing my family's resources. I'm losing everything.
The legacy, everything. Yeah.
And then where am I going to go? I'm going to go sit in an office. I'm going to go work a 9 to 5. Like, that's a lot on the brain, especially when you don't understand. Well, that's because you're fully adapted to being in nature, 18 hours a day. So anyway, just an observation, but
no, it's a big observation. I mean, you could almost, it could be a nonprofit by itself, and there are obviously nonprofits that do this. But you're right. I mean, I say this just having been, I spend too much time behind the screen, and every time I go out into the field, there's just this like healing, recalibration. And that's something that's really exciting, though, is that even with that, when we're talking about that, a lot of these guys, I mean, they're just type A, just moving, getting things done. And there's a reason why we're wanting to go with veterans. I mean, I think that this is something that was not talked about enough, but we talk about bringing youth into the industry, but do they really understand how much work? No, I mean, no, I'm dead serious. I mean,
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
there's very few youth that have the grit
they don't have,
to be able to
they
do
don't
the
have
job.
that West Texas grit, right? I had someone tell me that, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I need to go find it.
Go to rodeo and watch the rodeo kids. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some, but I will say that you're finding that a lot of these veterans have it, and they want to be outdoors. They don't want to work in tech. They don't want to work in finance. Sure, they want to make money. That is something that's it's a priority for me. Like how we pay these guys, it can't be like, oh, let's try and screw them over just because they're veterans or whatever. I mean, that happens. And in this industry, the amount of, when I came back from Africa with all the experience I had, I went and applied for a job, and I'm not going to tell which company, but it was like, there were 3 or 4 farms in different countries. Being able to speak another language was helpful. French was helpful. They were going to pay me about, $50K a year with minimal benefits. And I was like, I'm at the tail end of I felt like with the amount of work that you're wanting me to do, I might as well start my own thing. And that's exactly what I did, right? Like we have to be, if we really want this to change, if we want to change 26 million acres, we have to be compensating these guys for what they're really worth.
Yeah.
And the people that are actually implementing in the regenerative space, this is the biggest issue that I see, is that if we don't compensate people properly for the amount of work that they're doing and the amount of suffering, we in the Army, if you're downrange and you're in a conflict area, you're getting additional pay, right? I mean, it's it's there, and we need to be doing that. We need to be compensating these guys and giving them an opportunity.
Yeah. Bobby's right. Bobby's a good dude. He actually has started. I
talked to Bobby just last week.
Yeah. Yeah. Bobby started Crofter, so he's in the fight to save our food system too.
Yeah.
And he is a tech guy that went into ag. I think he's always had ag, but he knows. Yeah.
He's from Mapleton though, so he knows. He knows where it's at. He's
a good man, good people. So. That's awesome. Right on, man. So, okay. So now we're talking about, paying farmers well is, if you're a farmer listening to this, they're going to be like, where are you going to get that money? But with the other things that will go with, that you're going to share with us, you're kind of I'll use the term stacking enterprise because I'm an idiot and I don't know how to say it better. But if you're providing multiple services using one tool, then those services would be spent in multiple ways, like 3 different ways, but now it can be done under one. So when you're talking about raising food and get into fire mitigation and those kinds of things, like there's a real expense to that can be mitigated just by what you guys are doing.
Well, and if you take San Luis Obispo into consideration, let's talk about erosion as well, right? Yeah. Erosion, fire mitigation. If your soil starts to go out from under you when you're driving a tank, how many millions of dollars are wasted in training opportunities and potentially damaging equipment. We have an opportunity to really show, and this isn't building off the back of climate change or anything. We're just saying mission readiness and maintaining these lands in a proper way requires us to use livestock. And like you said, stacking enterprise, right? Like we don't, in the case of California, we're applying for CAL FIRE grants. There's fire marshals that are wasting. I mean, these guys are wasting insane amounts of resources just here in Utah because, people are unable or unwilling to have us graze out in certain areas, and we need to push for that. And I mean, the amount of fuel load there that's just ready to light the whole place on fire is insane. And there's plenty of producers that are like, I'll do this. Let me in, coach. And you're going to DC to talk about this. So whatever, man.
I was talking to a rancher the other day that was saying that there was a, and this happens a lot, but this was a fire they were on. A fire started. The first people on scene are the farmers and ranchers in the area. They show up with all their own equipment and start putting fire line in to stop the fire. And in this particular case, they got the fire pretty much stopped. But those guys worked all night, left the fire, and what's that?
Didn't get paid a dime.
Didn't get paid a dime, went back on their tractors the next morning, worked basically 24 hours straight.
Yep.
But when the fire guys showed up, they took over the fire and sat on it and got paid a ton of money for 3 or 4 days. And they're like, the fire was out.
Yeah.
And so,
and we have, and on the bases, there's a fire department, right? And they just sit there and they're like, hey, we're not doing any controlled burns this year. Well, that's 100,000. Oh, you mean like we don't have any fires this year? There were fires all around us happening as I was there. And they're like, this is where we're going to be grazing next year. So let's go prove it out. And when we're talking about this, so we're talking about grant funding. So that could be federal or state grant funding. It might be through the BLM or, X, Y, and Z. This is funding that these grant that producers cannot apply for. Or if they do that, like they've got to have some kind of specialized knowledge of how to contract and do this stuff. That's what we want to apply for. And this is how we make it so that we're not charging producers to have, veteran labor out there helping them get the job done the right way. Because we have to follow certain specifications. When we write a grant proposal, we have to follow a very specific work plan. Otherwise, we don't get paid.
Yeah.
But we want that to align with our efforts. And this is where we're talking stacking another enterprise. And that is and I'm not going to dive into carbon credits or anything because there's a lot of views on that, but there's natural credits, bringing back the water cycles, bringing back biodiversity. We're very apolitical in a way. I will work with Democrats, Republicans. I don't care. We want to fit in and support the initiatives that we're finding that we fit in every instance. In California, they want to bring back biodiversity. You should have seen those fat turkeys, man. They're everywhere. There were hundreds of them. You just can't hunt them. So
yeah.
So I'm not going to say anything about that, but we're bringing back that biodiversity. You're seeing animals coming back, and you're seeing the grasses healthier. The biggest thing that I'm excited about in Utah specifically is like the water cycles. How many houses can we keep building out here without having any water available? And how long does it take before we have that toxic plume from Salt Lake pop up because we don't have any water? Yep. I mean, all my neighbors decide that they think that they've got to water their lawn like it's a golf course, and nobody stopped, even when there's restrictions on it. Everyone's watering.
Nobody stopped.
Nobody stopped, and we think we got water for days. And I remember when we were farming, we were always praying for water, but I have never seen that really. Not the way that we did. I mean, we were praying for it when we had alfalfa, and it was just like, it was serious for the farmers. And I think that bringing back some of that intentionality is critical, but the public is ready to pay for the efforts that we put out. And I think you brought up, that a great example is these producers are doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm preaching this all the time. You're doing it anyway. We need to fund this. We need to give you 3 or 4 channels of funding. With what you're doing from the farm is huge. Let's give them a direct access to market. Let's connect them to the military bases, and let's get this so there's a bit more consistency. There's a foundation they can build on. And then on top of that, all the extra work that they do, just because they care, just because they care about their legacy and the land and the animals, all that extra work that they do, let's get additional funding for it.
Yeah.
Just because it helps everyone else downstream. All of a sudden you've got water. Why do I have water? Because we've maintained the riparian zone right along this and the wetlands, and we're bringing back grass that allows that water to stay. All that's just critical. But we sometimes, I think a lot of the ranchers just kind of give up, and they're like, well, nobody cares. They do care, but you have to tie into folks like you and me in order to get that.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said the Maine work ethic still exists, mostly modeled, encouraged, and supported as a way of life on the farms around the state, but mostly in northern community-based potato farms. You must be a biased potato farmer.
Is this Idaho? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
No, you're right. But
I love, you know,
but they're right. They're right. The point is the kids that are still growing up that way, they're the ones that have the grit.
They do.
You know?
And, you know, in places like Idaho, they're still doing the potato days where they take them out of school for a week or two and they're just out there suffering, moving potatoes. People say kids won't do it. I think they'd have a dang good time. I was always jealous of my cousins out there in Salem because I was like, man, I'd love to get 2 days off or 2 weeks off and be out there moving potatoes.
I felt the same way.
They got paid okay.
Yeah.
But not, I mean, I don't think kids have to work for pay anymore, but you know, it's just something, you culturally develop that.
Yeah, we lived in Phoenix for a few years, so we've got a lot of friends that are from the city and, you know, born and raised from the city. Phoenix was rough for me because I'm not from the city and I hated it. But now that we're up here in Cody and on a homestead, when we were processing our chickens as a family, so many of our friends were like, I cannot believe your girls are doing that.
Oh, yeah.
That's why that is why I was intentional about getting onto a place like this. And I knew I was racing the clock because they're getting older and there's, you know, if you don't get them into it before a certain age, you know, you try to go telling your 16 or 17-year-old daughter that we're gutting and processing chickens. If she hasn't already been gutting and processing chickens, and see how she responds. Yeah. So yeah, they've got that. So.
Yeah. Well, and as a veteran, what really drove you to go rural? You know, I mean, that's something that I go.
Yeah, I grew up rural, so I had that. I've met a lot of vets that are looking for it, but honestly, I think once you kind of do what we did, you don't want to be around people. You know, I love being around people, and I think that's just my character. But hearing friends that I have that aren't like me, they're like, I just don't want to be around people. Now, I do not like large crowds. I love large crowds if I'm with, you know, friends and stuff like that, but
I mean, you're cranking out those conferences. You got to have some.
I was going to say, I've also done a lot of work on myself after the military to clear out some of those cobwebs, but
absolutely.
But man, let me tell you, I go to those conferences and I'm thinking about home. I'm thinking about my little piece of heaven here. I can't wait to get home. And as soon as I get home and get out of the truck, the crispness of the air where I live, you know, all of those things, I think I'm better able to do the things that I don't internally love so much because I have somewhere I can go to recalibrate.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
When Loring Air Force Base was decommissioned, it was devastating to the northern Maine Aroostook County economy, but the potato farm survived with that grit you mentioned. Nice.
Yeah. That's hard. It's hard work. Potato farming was not something that I ever envied. So they have this special North Idaho grit or Southeast Idaho, wherever you are.
Yeah.
I think
go ahead.
That. No, go ahead. Bring that up. Cause that's,
we were talking about fire. So I wanted to bring this up that we talked about from an older podcast. So if you didn't see that podcast, what you're looking at is a chart that shows the reduction. So this line here, which you can't see my cursor. So where on the left where it says 10.5 million, that was AUMs, meaning animal units a month. How many cows you can have on an acre per month. So at this time, and really AUM started further back in like Taylor Grazing Act in like 1930 something, but at this time, what you're looking at is at the bottom graph here, the red one is how many acres of wildfires we had per year. Yeah. And so as we've reduced livestock and logging off of our public lands, it has significantly contributed to the major increase in wildfires in the West. So we were at something like before they enacted grazing rights, that this chart doesn't show all the way. there was like 18 million AUMs in the West, animals per acre, right? That's where we were at. And we had 2 million acres of fires a year in roughly the 1940s. Now you can see we're down to, 8 million, under 8 million AUMs, and our wildfire acreage is over 10 million. So it's almost a carbon copy of the reduction and the increase.
Yeah.
So when you talk about what you guys can do with grazing and wildfires on these DoD lands, and being in the military, you're doing live fire missions on these bases all the time.
Yep.
You got to keep training, but if you start a wildfire that then rips across and destroys an entire community, if it goes too far, that's a problem. So grazing livestock to mitigate that is a really great strategy.
It is. And I mean, if we talk about outside of fire like risks, we're also seeing, because of a lot of the environmentalists who never leave the office, by the way, a lot of them just sit there and make decisions, but a lot of them have decided, we don't want livestock. But what happens is you get these endemic weed species that just go wild and rampant, or like things like thistle and all sorts of, unsavory like weeds that you're going to have to go and crawl through as an infantryman.
Yeah.
No, I'm telling you, man, I don't know how you can be mission ready. I don't know how we can be combat effective on a military base when we have those kind of things growing everywhere. And I'm just saying this when I was out at Fort Benning, which is one that we're trying to work with as well.
Yeah.
They're still, I mean, it's a new concept, and we're going to have to build. I mean, we spend a lot of time just talking through this with people that just don't get it. And it's okay they don't get it. Like, we can't just put them in that other category.
Yeah.
We have to get down on their level and say, look, I understand what you're saying, that you mow the lawns. That's not the same thing, right? The lawns aren't pooping and creating like seed banks of vibrant pasture.
Yeah.
They're just, you're mowing.
Yeah.
And you're mowing the same endemic species, and they're coming back hot.
Yeah.
And so,
and it is better to not put them in the bucket and just know they just need more evidence, more time. Like we had a customer today that ordered from a producer from the farm on Tuesday. And I got an email where she was super pissed because she hadn't heard from anybody. And this was 2 days later. She hadn't heard from anybody. The order wasn't delivered, and she feels like she's getting scammed. I'm like, listen, Linda.
Listen, buddy.
Yeah, I emailed her, and she was posting some stuff on Instagram. It turned out really great. She was, very misinformed, but I said, listen, because she said, I'm a huge supporter of this mission, but this isn't okay. And I said, listen, if you're a huge supporter of the mission, then you need to understand that buying direct from the farmer and rancher is not buying from the grocery store. Instant gratification is what got us where we're at. First of all, ranchers don't ship past Tuesday, because if it gets delayed on a shipping, 1 day shipping, it melts and you lose everything. The animal was wasted and you lost what you paid for. So they don't ship past a certain day. She ended up calling the rancher, and he's like, listen, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to keep cows alive in the desert in the hottest month on record. And so after, she came at us pretty strong. And then after we explained, she wrote back and she said, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I now see what you guys are talking about. I had no idea. And I am a supporter of this mission. And I do understand that we are going to have to change our behaviors and how we've done things if we are going to do this different. And hell, we're still going to be, if we change even that, if you can wait 4 days for your beef to show up, you're going to be, and that changes everything for us. That is still way better than you having to can your food for the entire year, because that's the only way you would have food on the shelf.
That was just what I was going to say. I think, but what a testimonial that you have someone that's just ticked and good. Let them be ticked. So I say, all the people that, sometimes we get, we have to be really careful in the ag industry that we don't, and I say ag industry, we got to be really careful, because there's big ag, and then we've got people that are, we're fighting to do it in a more, I think the really big difference between us and big ag is that we're trying to be as intentional as possible. A lot of people say, oh, it's the small farms. It's like, no, big ag doesn't mean, or just because you're not big ag doesn't mean that you're not doing it. You're not working on a lot of land. You know, like I said, we're aiming for a very large amount of land. But what is different is that we want to be extremely intentional.
Yeah.
The equipment is not going to come before the people. It's not going to replace the producers. We're not trying to screw over people. And I think the big thing that I see is that let's decentralize this. Let's as much as we can, if we can connect the consumers and the customers to the land and to the actual pain that goes into making their food. My gosh, they're part of this movement. They're part of this community. And I think that's exactly what From the Farm does. And we have to do it with the military as well. Because if we don't get that message, we're going to lose a war, right? Like I was just talking to someone today that said, the real thing that for me that's critical, going back to my experiences in Africa and seeing wars and seeing, you know, some of these things happening, you cannot win a war without food.
Mm-hmm.
On the home front, if we cannot feed our people, there's going to come a point, like forget toilet paper, right? This isn't like COVID. Oh, I ran out of toilet paper. What am I going to do? It's like, no, I do not have any meat to feed my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I going to murder first? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a very real scenario. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I will say that like there is a point where your kids are hungry. There is a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of people that are leaving the cities for that reason. Like it's very uncomfortable to think that these people that they would do anything to feed themselves, except for the thing that they just don't know how to do, which is grow their own food.
Right.
And because they're not connected to people in the rural areas, they don't understand how much work that is. You know, there's going to be, if we can't decentralize, if we can't reconnect our society with how much work this is and how important it is, then we've already lost before it even started.
Yeah. I've talked to some people that have flat out said, I don't need to prepare. I've got enough guns and ammo. I'll just take it from you.
That's scary.
I'm like, well, I know you're out there.
If it's worth your, I mean, if it's worth your soul, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It's crazy.
If a morsel of food is worth you taking out. I mean, this happened in Rwanda. I mean, when we were,
you saw it.
No, that's literally there's a full genocide that happened. And a lot of it's interesting. You go back and go watch. And I mean, we're going to go watch Les Mis or something. I go watch that with my girls and they love it. It all sounds like this ideology, this, something that moved people to go start a revolution. Do you want to know what it really is? The price of bread. They've shown this. The price of bread is directly correlated with conflict. So as that rises, there's a certain point, a tick, like just you get over that point, and there's going to be conflict. Interesting. And that seems like the most simple way of looking at conflict, but I will tell you that you can be a revolutionary and all these other things, but nobody's going to listen to you until the price of bread is over, X amount, or until meat can't be bought. And then you're like, oh, I'm part of the revolution too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get all those laggards that were like, I wasn't part of it, but now I am.
Well, and that's the thing. It's been eye-opening going to DC. I am careful to say I never thought I'd end up there because I've been praying to God to help us grow, and so of course I'm there. And to meet the right people, but
you can't make the change that we want to make without going to the top as well. And so voices like yours, talking to Secretary Rollins and meeting these people, and that we say the same thing, is that I can't help these producers without going directly to the base commanders. I can't build these we can demonize them. We can get all angry about it and think that they're blocking us or that they're just idiots.
Yeah.
But you got to be people building bridges.
Well, and what I really learned was the machine of what the United States government is so set in the direction that it's been built to go towards, which is not in favor of the people, that even people in office that would really like to make a change, they can't.
They're
So
stuck.
they're taking a beating for not doing things that we want to do, and they're over there trying, but there's only so much they can do. So what that tells me is like, well, we don't just roll over and be like, oh, well, they can't do anything about it. Well, we weren't planning on the government to do it anyway, because for the last 5 years, we were headed down a wrong direction. So the people rallied to do this without them. And so that's why we need to do it as a people, because we also learn when we're there, the people in that area, they're so focused on what they're doing with this government machine that there's strategies to get things done. And those strategies in government take a long time. So we were talking to some folks about what needed to be done right away. And they're like, well, that's a 10-year strategy. We're like, what? Leave DC, come out to the West and actually look at our farms and ranches and what's left. We don't have 10 years.
No.
Like listen, we're not going to starve most likely. So that's not what I'm saying. We don't have 10 years, but in 10 years, we won't have small family farms and ranches to buy from. That's what I'm saying. In 10 years, your primary options that you can afford are going to be lab grown or fake meat or insect burgers. That's what we mean. Food security will be there because we've put so much time, energy, and focus into technology to make food that food security will be there. You'll fill your belly with a bunch of junk, but food sovereignty will be gone. You won't have the choice to buy what you would choose to buy, because if we don't get working now, and I believe the people can, but if we don't get working now, we're not going to have it. In 10 years, it'll just be too late. So their strategy and what they're looking at, what do they say about Rome? Rome took hundreds of years to fail. I'll bet you the people outside of the Capitol were screaming about the solutions that were needed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the farmers were. It's interesting that the producers on the outskirts see it.
Yeah.
Just they see the whole picture, and even though they're seen as like the uneducated and unsophisticated, we see it, and we understand it. And I think what's really interesting with the approach, what you're talking about, we are running into this when we're talking to people in DC as well, and from DOD, that there's a lot of people that are interested in supporting it and moving it forward, but the onus is on us to be so good that they can't ignore us. That I can't just talk a good game. We're going to have to keep bringing veterans. We're going to have to keep building insane partnerships that just shout from the rooftops and make a big splash in the country. And we're going to have to bring consumers on board, people that, like you pointed out, people that do not understand at all, which is okay.
Yeah.
We just have to meet them where they are and then bring them on board and help them see that without them, we can't do this. And there's been so many times I've talked to ranchers and farmers, and they're like, I can do this without them. I'm like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You cannot. You need them as much as they need you. And a lot of times we think we're an exclusive club, just like veterans do. We all think we're so cool, our cowboy gear and everything. And we're really not. We're as dependent on these people as they are on us. And we have to be humble and realize there's a better way for us to approach this. And I feel this way as well with producers. Like, I'm very careful. Like, I'm not going to shove down your throat some regenerative practices. I'm not going to come in like some,
that's pointless.
It's not helpful and it's not productive, but I have to prove to them that they can save money. I have to prove to them that I can get them there. And if I can't do that, then I'm not worth a hill of beans. I mean, that's just the way it is in rural communities. If you can't prove it, then what are you doing? And this is why a lot of these ag tech folks come in and are gone the next day. Nobody trusts them. They're like, oh yeah, sure, give me some free demos. I'm never going to tell not going to tell my neighbors that I use this, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that. I've done all the free demos, and that's about what they were worth. So, but yeah, I think that going back to it, I mean, I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
I do think that what you do when you're having these conversations in DC, I mean, all I can say is it's worth it. I don't know why, and I don't know how it's going to all pan out, but the more partnerships we can make, the more open we are in collaborating. I mean, it's the gospel, man. It's just us loving one another and reconnecting. And the second that there's conflict, I can tell you, I've seen it, that people all of a sudden realize, okay, let's work together and start feeding ourselves.
Yep.
It all goes back to agriculture. All of our roots, all of our history, all of our traditions revolve around food.
Yeah.
And it goes back to agriculture. So we'll all touch. I mean, we're all going to be there. It's just that you're more or less prepping for that conflict. And maybe that conflict's not with China. Maybe that conflict's not with, Russia or whatever, but maybe that conflict is, I mean, maybe it's a huge earthquake or freaking Yellowstone going off, right? Like, I don't know. But at some point we're going to have to like reset and we need to be prepped for that. And I feel like ignoring the people at the top because we think they're so far gone, which it feels that way, even with an administration that's more open to change at times, it still feels that way. Yeah. And you and I've talked about it. It's extremely discouraging. Yeah. But
well, I'll just tell you, having been in DC and now the connections that we have there that are really important, and hearing from them that they see, all I wanted to know was that they knew. I mean, not all I wanted to know, but the main thing I wanted to know is, do you know how bad it is? Or are you just pretending like, and not only do you know, but are you willing to hear the other side of how to fix it that you're not hearing? And the answer was a resounding yes. Yeah. And so after this last trip to DC, and then Secretary Rollins' willingness to meet with us, and some of the conversations I've had subsequently, I'm more hopeful and encouraged now than I ever was. I wasn't feeling that way a month ago because I hadn't made the connections yet to have the conversation to know if they realize that, some of the stuff you're doing doesn't matter. It's not helpful. Yep. And so, I'm in a way different headspace now, which I'm grateful for. And I hope to be able to relay that to others. Like, we still have to do this buy-in with the people, because it's a really tough game these people that were elected this time around are playing. And so we can't rely on them, but I do feel like there's a rare moment of support that is coming. It's not fast enough because we've been, we're at the end of 90 years of destruction, and it's getting really bad, and we don't have years. But again, that's why the people have to get behind. If you go direct to the consumer, or excuse me, if you're the consumer and you go direct to the producer and you start buying from them, I talk to producers all the time, and they hear from consumers, how do we help? How do we help? The answer is very simple. Source from them. Now, if you can't afford it, I get it. But there's actually probably other ways you can afford it. If you buy it in shares and split it up with your family, you'll save thousands of dollars. There's just education that has to be done there. But look, it is an investment. It's like choose your hard. You rally behind the farmers we have now, and maybe you got to sacrifice some loose expenditures that you have. Mm-hmm. So you either choose your hard now and be like, okay, I'll not buy so many of my nicotine pouches because I'm going to put that towards, good high quality beef right from my neighbor.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have to deal with the hard later, which is you just don't. It's way more expensive because we continue to lose them, or you don't have access altogether. So buy from your producers, support the platforms. I mean, I believe in abundance. There's not scarcity. There's 340 million people to feed and only 1.8 million farms. There's an abundance for everybody, for everything. There's less of an abundance of food, of high quality food, which is what we're trying to fix. But go and shake the hand that feeds you. Find the platforms that are designed to connect you with them. Go to the farmers markets. Go do those things that are going to help you help the farmers that we have left now. And we will build momentum and start making the shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that abundance analogy, is that we're not victims.
Mhm.
And I think we have to be so careful not to play victim as producer as well. And producers, veterans, we're not. Yeah, I mean, we can go down the
Victimhood in general is not.
right. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we've got a crappy food system. You know what? It's probably been crappy for a long time. We just are
Yep.
now able to see a lot of this crap in front of our face.
Yeah.
But we're not victims. We have information, and there are ways. But it's like when people shut down and are just like, "Oh, the system's against us." I'm like, man, you're missing out on what is really exciting, because I'm talking to people like you and everyone from this movement. And I'm not just talking about the regenerative movement. There's a food sovereignty movement. There's a movement that has nothing to do with certificates or certifications or any of that, the labels. It's more of like, how do we reconnect?
Yeah.
How do we get back to our roots? And I think that the second that you're there, I've never talked to anyone that's a victim. I've always talked to them and they're like, hey, let's pick up our, let's pick up and go. And let's keep talking because it's working.
Yeah.
And I can say, from, the front lines of something that is absolutely just going to reshape the way that we do things. We're all just feeling impressed to do things, and there's people that are feeling inspired that have no idea that it has nothing to do with them, their religion or anything else. They're just feeling this pull to get something done. And those are the kind of people I want to work with.
Yeah.
And it's even though you're like, well, how can you trust a feeling? But I can tell you that is all we've been going off with some of these things. And you and I have both talked about this, but there's another entity shaping the future here. And I call it God, but I think that even the people that aren't, of a certain religion, like they're feeling that pull and they're changing it. And they're changing the way our food system's running. I mean, I'm talking to a lot of people that I just unexpected, like they just talk about it. Like, I just decided that I'm not going to do it the way that they've always told me to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work. Yes. Or that, it's just crazy.
That pull they're feeling is God. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the second that you realize that, I've told people like this movement feels like a religion.
Yeah.
And there's people that are devoting everything to it. And, and it's exciting. And there's obviously a lot of things that to be scared of. But I think that the second that we start putting ourselves in that victim mindset or blaming, it limits us in our ability to create solutions. And I think, there's a very real possibility that you could have, you could have just said, hey, I'm not talking to Secretary Rollins. I'm not going to DC. That's what a waste of
mind. That definitely crossed my mind.
There's how many hundreds of producers have said it's a waste of my time.
Yeah. And I would have been an idiot, because what I've learned by ignoring that thought was very important. So yeah, that's right. And but that does happen. Like, it's important to recognize that that there's two different groups here. There's the person, and then there's the agency.
Yeah.
Right. There's the agency they represent, and then the person that's in that agency. Now, the person that's in the agency could be terrible. They could be good. But if you just label that person because of all your past, right, with that agency, then you don't even give the new people a shot to do it different. I mean, the work I'm doing with the SBA, when I was out there, we got to meet up with some really awesome people at SBA, and they had their families there. And I'm like, putting faces behind names, like the family, it's like seeing his wife and young son. And I'm like, these people are us. They
awesome.
So take a breath. They're asking us what they can do, which is awesome. I mean, I don't know many people that have ever had Washington, D.C. reach way out past D.C. and start asking what's needed.
No. Yeah. Well, and if they do, it's because they're getting paid to do it. There's all sorts of, and I can tell you, I'm not paying anyone in DC, and we're not lobbying or anything.
I haven't
but we
paid.
are
I haven't been paid. I'm paying.
not yet, man, not yet.
Yeah.
Be a lobbyist here soon. No, I think we're we're doing the right thing. And the thing that's really exciting, going back to what you're talking about with agencies and people, there are good people. There are some phenomenal people. There's phenomenal people in the military. There's phenomenal people in the government that are just good-hearted people that are dedicating and sacrificing, very similar to how we sacrifice on the farms. And I will say that I have been very negative towards them at times, and I think there's a bit of a blame game. And I will say that they're cultivating very much like we cultivate, and they're herding very much like we herd. They just have to herd, in these bureaucratic circles and build relationships and try and make something from nothing. And sometimes they do, man. I'm seeing them make it happen. And I think that's exciting. I think that in that sense, we can definitely build a bond and build some real relationships. And I want to see that happen. So the more that you, myself, and a lot of these guys that just, it's not our nature to be in suit and tie, talking, wheeling and dealing out there in DC. We need to do it.
One of the ranchers texted in our group, because we're taking 4 guys back with us to meet with Rollins, and he goes, "What do we got to wear? I don't have a suit." And my mom tells me I have to have a suit for DC. His mom's probably like 70, like, "You need to wear a suit." And I'm like, "Listen,
don't embarrass your mom."
I said, I've been to DC twice. I got jeans, my boots,
just
and
put
a button up, and as soon as you throw a sport coat on, you're in a suit.
That's good enough. Good enough.
Yeah, I said, just show up like you, man. That's what needs to be represented in DC. So
exactly. Yeah. And they need to be comfortable and confident in what they're wearing and what they're doing and the message they bring. So yeah, we're going the right direction.
We are. And man, I'm so grateful that we have found each other and linked up. We're both from Utah, but this is the project that brought us together. And we're looking forward to supporting your guys' mission from the farm, supporting Hinterlands. And I know you guys are a big supporter of ours. So I'm just really excited that we're in this fight together, and all the other people we're kind of starting to become connected with as a whole. There's a groundswell, like we've been saying, a big movement. So consumers should at least know that there's a lot of work being done and in the right direction. You may not hear it all the time. It doesn't dominate the news cycle, but it's being done. It'll dominate when we get that momentum, and then you'll see it everywhere. So
exactly.
Cool. Juan, thank you for joining, brother. I really appreciate it. Folks, it's been great to have you. Get to have you share that with the From the Farm audience. You guys have any questions? How can people get a hold of you? What's a good way for them to follow, get involved, get behind the project? What's the best way to do that?
Right now, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We're getting better at Instagram and Facebook. Most of the work that we've and the collaborations that we're creating are happening on LinkedIn, and we'll share updates there. We are going to here soon have a newsletter that we create these updates. There's just so much that, and you experienced this as well, AJ, but like within a week, there's hundreds of things that happen, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I keep people updated on what's going on? And so we're going to start having that newsletter. If you're a veteran and you're interested in the program and training, please reach out. I'll send you a form. We're constantly vetting and trying to get people into this. We are SkillBridge. We have a SkillBridge. So if you are coming straight out of the military, you can use that and be part of the program. And then if you're a potential partner, please reach out. Producers, like, we want to be working with you. We want to help you with your operations. And, we're tired. I'm tired of seeing ranchers having to do a GoFundMe or try and like save their ranch. Like, this isn't America. This is a dystopian nightmare. And we have an opportunity right now to make a difference there. And then, if you have people that you think would want to support, From the Farm and Hinterland in expanding our mission, we have to fund these initiatives. And it's something that is a really big part of this. Obviously, the work that we do is critical. The flights that AJ's taken to Washington, D.C. and all over to get this message out, we need to be able to, and there's a lot of people that are, a lot of folks out there, they're like, hey, I don't know, I'm thinking of funding something, but this is worthwhile. And we want to, whether that's driving policy or us driving it on the range with veterans and producers, we need to be working together. So we're open and we're always ready for ideas and creativity. And yeah.
Awesome.
So
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks, Juan. Appreciate you.
Bet.
In 1930, there were 6 million farms in America. Today, that number has plummeted to 1.8 million. And now 85% of the beef in America is controlled by just 4 companies. That means fewer farmers have to produce more food, thus incentivizing them to produce a high quantity of food instead of high quality food. Plus, if something goes wrong, the 98% of us that don't grow food are at risk of starving. Yikes, that's dark. Let's go darker. A few very wealthy companies have control over all the food. And if North Korea has taught us anything, a centralized food supply can accidentally or intentionally kill a lot of people. The bottom line is this: you can't wait until hits the fan to figure out what your family's going to eat, but all hope is not lost. Here's the plan. It's called From the Farm, an industry-disrupting platform that directly connects customers and local farmers with a website that's as easy to use as Airbnb. From the Farm gives you fresher, higher quality foods, strengthens communities, and helps small farmers not only survive, but thrive. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision. It's an investment into our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.